Have you ever wondered why some women walk into a room and instantly all eyes turn to them? I'm not talking about conventional physical beauty. I'm talking about that magnetic presence, almost disturbing, that makes men lose control and other women feel a mixture of admiration and envy. Carl Jung discovered something revolutionary about the human psyche that explains exactly this phenomenon. He realized that the most attractive people are not those who follow social patterns, but rather those who dared to completely integrate their psychological totality, including the aspects that society considers dangerous or unacceptable. Here's a truth that will shock you. 87% of women live imprisoned in social masks, repressing exactly the aspect of their personality that would make them irresistibly magnetic. They've been conditioned to believe that being a good girl would make them loved, when in reality, this makes them predictable and easily forgettable. Jung called this living only through the persona, a social mask that disconnects us from our true power. But what if I told you there's a specific psychological path to becoming dangerously attractive? A process that Jung mapped in detail and that can transform you into an irresistible magnetic force. Prepare to discover aspects of yourself that you didn't even know existed.
The seductive shadow. How to integrate your forbidden aspects to become irresistibly authentic. We all possess a shadow, a part of the psyche that contains everything we reject, deny, or consider unacceptable in ourselves. For most women, this shadow is filled with aspects that society has labeled as inappropriate: anger, unbridled ambition, raw sexuality, strategic selfishness, conscious manipulation. But here's the secret that few understand. The more you reject your shadow, the more it projects unconsciously, creating a fragmented and predictable energy. Men sense this fragmentation instinctively. They perceive when a woman is edited, when she's representing only a socially acceptable version of herself. The dangerously attractive woman did something radical. She consciously integrated her shadow. She doesn't just accept her dark aspects, she uses them strategically. When she feels anger, she doesn't repress it, she channels it into magnetic intensity. When she feels the desire for control, she doesn't feel ashamed, she develops a dominant presence that disarms any man. Think of figures like Cleopatra or Catherine de' Medici. They weren't conventionally good according to the standards of their times. They were complex, unpredictable, capable of tenderness and cruelty, of vulnerability and absolute power. This psychological totality created an almost hypnotic attraction. Jung observed that when we integrate our shadow, we develop what he called monopersonality, a presence charged with psychic energy that others feel viscerally. It's as if you emanated a more intense, more real, more alive vital force than most people. How can you begin this integration? First, identify what most irritates you in other women. Jung said that what bothers us most in others is often our own projected shadow. If you get irritated with manipulative women, perhaps your shadow contains a natural strategist that you've repressed. If you judge women who are overly sensual, you might be denying your own powerful sexual nature. The second step is bolder. Begin to consciously experiment with these rejected aspects. If you've always been the good girl, allow yourself moments of calculated rebellion. If you've always avoided conflicts, practice expressing disagreement in elegance and firmness. If you've always minimized your sensuality, consciously explore your power of seduction. Shadow integration doesn't mean becoming a bad person. It means becoming a complete, authentic person, unpredictable in intriguing ways. When a man encounters a woman who has fully embraced her psychological complexity, he feels he's found something rare, a real person in a world of masks.
The power of the developed animus, mastering your inner masculine energy to conquer any man. Jung revolutionized our understanding of the psyche by discovering that every woman possesses an inner masculine aspect called animus, and every man possesses an inner feminine aspect called anima. Most women live completely disconnected from their animus, and this makes them psychologically dependent and energetically unbalanced in relationships. The animus isn't about becoming externally masculine. It's about internally developing archetypal masculine qualities, strategic logic, natural assertiveness, leadership capacity, emotional independence, and most importantly, the ability to not need male validation to feel complete. Here's a truth that will transform your perspective. Men are magnetically attracted to women who possess a developed animus because they represent a psychological challenge. They're not easily conquered, manipulated, or controlled. They operate from an internal power center that is simultaneously feminine and masculine. Jung observed that women with integrated animus develop what he called superior function. They can access both feminine intuition and masculine logic, creating a devastatingly effective emotional and strategic intelligence. They know exactly when to be vulnerable and when to be impenetrable, when to nurture and when to challenge, when to approach and when to withdraw. Think of women like Coco Chanel or Margaret Thatcher. They didn't reject their femininity, but developed an animus so powerful that they could navigate and dominate traditionally masculine worlds while keeping their feminine essence intact. This combination created an irresistible magnetic presence. How do you develop your animus? First, stop seeking male validation for your decisions. Begin to trust your own internal logic. When a man expresses an opinion, don't automatically agree. Analyze, question, form your own perspective. Develop strong opinions about topics that matter to you. Second, cultivate real financial and emotional independence, not as a feminist statement, but as a psychological strategy. When you genuinely don't need a man for your security or happiness, you emanate a completely different energy. You become a prize to be won, not a need to be filled. Third, practice leadership in small situations. Make decisions in restaurants, lead conversations, express disagreements with confidence. The animus strengthens through the practice of taking conscious control over your life and environment. The result? You become a woman that men respect before they desire, admire before they love. You create a dynamic where they need to make an effort to win your attention instead of you making an effort to maintain their interest. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who we really are, requires the integration of all aspects of the psyche. A woman with developed animus isn't just attractive, she's formidable. If this content is resonating with you, don't forget to like this video so I know I should continue bringing these deep insights from Jung applied to female empowerment.
Beyond the persona, destroying social masks to reveal your true feminine strength. Jung identified one of the greatest obstacles to human authenticity, the persona. This psychological mask we develop to be socially accepted becomes a prison that disconnects us from our true power. For women, this prison is particularly cruel because society has created extremely limiting feminine personas. The good girl, the perfect caregiver, the woman who never bothers anyone. Here's a shocking revelation. Most men are unconsciously bored with women who live only through their personas. They might feel safe with these women, but they rarely feel truly fascinated or obsessed with them. Predictability kills passion, and the persona is, by definition, predictable. The dangerously attractive woman did something revolutionary. She consciously destroyed her social masks and revealed her authentic nature, with all its contradictions, complexities, and inconvenient aspects. She doesn't try to be consistent with an image, she's consistent with her inner truth, even when that truth is multifaceted and sometimes disturbing. Jung observed that when we abandon the persona, we access what he called authentic personality, a presence that emanates pure psychological truth. This authenticity creates magnetic attraction because most people live in a world of masks and performances. Finding someone genuinely real is like finding water in the desert. Consider women like Frida Kahlo or Madonna. They never tried to fit into feminine social molds. They expressed their contradictions openly: vulnerability and strength, sensuality and intellectuality, sweetness and ferocity. This authentic complexity created a lasting fascination that transcended generations. How do you destroy your social masks? First, identify which aspects of your personality you hide or minimize to be accepted. Maybe you're naturally dominant but pretend to be submissive. Maybe you're intellectually superior but pretend to be less intelligent so as not to intimidate. Maybe you have controversial opinions but keep them hidden to avoid conflicts. Second, begin to gradually express these authentic aspects. If you have a strong opinion about something, express it with elegance but without apologizing. If you're naturally a leader, stop pretending you need to be led. If you're sexually confident, stop minimizing this energy to appear respectable. The third step is the most challenging. Accept that not everyone will like the authentic version of you, and celebrate that. Jung said that individuation necessarily involves the loss of universal approval. When you stop trying to please everyone, you become irresistibly attractive to the right people. The woman who lives beyond the persona develops what Jung called numinous presence, an almost spiritual quality that makes others feel they're in the presence of something special and rare. She's not trying to impress, she simply is. And this radical authenticity creates an attraction that goes beyond the physical. Men viscerally sense when a woman is being genuine versus when she's performing. The authentic woman creates a sensation of constant discovery. You never know completely what to expect from her because she's not following a social script. She's living from her inner truth. Remember, the persona was created for social survival, but authenticity is necessary for emotional prosperity and magnetic attraction. When you stop hiding behind masks, you reveal a feminine strength that is simultaneously vulnerable and invincible.
The alchemy of individuation, transforming wounds into irresistible magnetic power. Jung discovered the most transformative process of the human psyche, individuation. It's not just superficial self-knowledge, it's the psychological alchemy that transforms our most wounded aspects into our greatest source of magnetic power. For women, this process is particularly powerful because society taught us to hide our wounds, when in fact they contain our most authentic strength. Here's a truth that will revolutionize your perspective on suffering. Your greatest emotional wounds are not obstacles to your attractiveness, they are the raw material of your deepest magnetism. Jung observed that people who went through the individuation process developed a quality he called wounded wisdom, an emotional depth and understanding of human nature that is irresistibly attractive. Think of women like Elizabeth Taylor or Angelina Jolie. Their lives were marked by significant traumas, but instead of becoming permanent victims, they transformed their wounds into an emotional intensity and authenticity that created an almost hypnotic attraction. They didn't hide their complexity, they embraced it and transformed it into power. Jungian individuation works like medieval alchemy. You take the lead of your most painful experiences and transform it into the gold of your unique wisdom and magnetism. A woman who went through betrayal learns to detect falsehood with surgical precision, developing an intuition that makes her formidable.
A woman who faced abandonment develops an emotional independence that makes her irresistibly challenging. How do you initiate this alchemy? First, stop running from your emotional wounds. Instead of minimizing or denying them, explore them consciously. What patterns do they reveal? What strengths have they developed in you? Jung said that what you resist most persists, but what you consciously integrate transforms into power. Second, identify the unique qualities that your difficult experiences developed in you. Maybe rejection created iron determination. Maybe betrayal developed a capacity to read people with frightening accuracy. Maybe loss created an emotional depth that few possess. The third aspect is crucial. Learn to communicate your depth without becoming a victim. The individuated woman doesn't hide her scars, but she also doesn't display them as trophies of suffering. She has integrated them in such a way that they became part of her strength, not her weakness. Jung discovered that people who complete the individuation process develop what he called mana personality, a presence charged with transformed psychic energy. They emanate a quality of "I've seen everything and survived" that is simultaneously vulnerable and invincible. This combination creates magnetic attraction because men instinctively sense that they're in the presence of a woman who cannot be broken, because she has already been broken and consciously rebuilt herself. She doesn't need to be protected from difficult experiences because she knows how to transform them into wisdom. The individuated woman becomes dangerously attractive because she represents something rare: total authenticity without victimization, emotional depth without unnecessary drama, strength that comes from integrated vulnerability. She doesn't fear emotional intensity because she learned to navigate and transform any experience. Remember, individuation isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming complete. And a complete woman who has consciously integrated all aspects of her human experience possesses a magnetic attraction that transcends any superficial seduction technique.
You're someone who seeks real transformation, not just superficial attraction tricks. What Jung taught us about the human psyche reveals a revolutionary truth. The most powerful attraction doesn't come from techniques or performances. It emerges from authentic psychological totality. Let's recap this transformative journey that can completely change how you relate to your own power. First, you discovered that integrating your shadow, those forbidden aspects that society taught you to reject, doesn't make you a bad person, but rather a complete and magnetically authentic person. When you stop fighting against parts of yourself, you release a psychic energy that others feel viscerally. Second, you understood that developing your animus, your inner masculine energy, doesn't diminish your femininity, but potentiates it. A woman who doesn't need male validation to feel complete becomes irresistibly challenging and respectable. Third, you learned that destroying your social masks and living beyond the persona creates a rare authenticity that fascinates because most people live performing social roles. Your inner truth, with all its contradictions, is infinitely more attractive than any edited version of yourself. Finally, you discovered that your deepest wounds, when transformed through individuation, become your most powerful source of magnetism. The wisdom that emerges from integrated suffering creates an irresistible emotional depth. Here are 3 practical actions you can implement immediately. Identify a characteristic you've always repressed and experiment with expressing it consciously in a safe situation this week. If you've always avoided conflicts, practice expressing a disagreement with elegance. Make an important decision without seeking external approval. Choose something significant in your life and decide based only on your own inner wisdom. Feel what it's like to operate from your power center. Share an authentic vulnerability with someone close, but in a way that demonstrates how this experience strengthened you, didn't victimize you. practice transforming wounds into communicable wisdom. Jung said that he who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens. You're about to awaken to a level of personal power and magnetism that most women never experience because they're afraid to look inside and find their totality. Remember, you don't need to be perfect to be irresistibly attractive. You need to be complete, authentic, and brave enough to embrace all aspects of who you really are. If this video awakens something in you, if you feel you're ready for this journey of deep psychological transformation, leave a comment with "I choose totality" and share which insight impacted you most. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we'll continue exploring the deepest secrets of the human psyche applied to female empowerment and conscious relationships. Your individuation journey begins now. And when you become the complete woman that Jung described, you won't just be dangerously attractive, you'll be unforgettable.